Alright, so we going to stream. We'll do some reactions. We'll do some ending explains. Little hat on. Can I try to little hat on?
Hey, what's up everybody and welcome to FoundFlix. On today's Ending Explain, we're looking at A Dark Song, following a woman who has rented a house in the middle of nowhere. She teams up with a downtrodden occultist to help her contact her deceased son via a dangerous ritual. I really appreciate this movie, especially for how much it accomplishes with not much. It's what you call a two-hander, meaning it's basically just two characters the entire movie, yet it still manages to create something impressively complex and interesting, as well as having some nice traditional scares in there as well. I could see viewers considering this a bit slow, but the deliberate pace really lends to a feeling of dread that permeates every frame and increases exponentially as things get deeper into the darkness. It ends up being a quite high...
Alright, so two-hander, two actresses, two actors, actor, actress.
High-minded experience touching on a wide range of religious and philosophical thoughts. It's actually very in-depth, so bear with me and we'll put the whole thing together in the end. Let's check out A Dark Song, breaking down the story, including the...
Like I told you, I ain't see bro, like that's why I'm like really like trying to catch up. Cause normally I would be watching like the movies that he like promotes, like all these movies that he's doing, like I will watch these after I watch. After I watch through these, I will watch the movie.
The complicated ritual at play, Sophia's important character journey, the many religious and philosophical references here, as well as explaining the ending and what it means. It's a lot. Establishing the important religious aspect to the story right at the opening, we begin with a Bible quote. "For he shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee in all ways." Well, thanks for the angels. Out in an extremely rural area of Ireland, a tiny blue speck of a car dots the landscape. The driver, Sophia, appears to be interested in buying a house out here, and she needs it immediately. There are apparently some odd necessities, like asking which way a room faces, west she's told. The guy almost tries to talk her out of taking it, as she has to pay for an entire year up front. Sophia doesn't bat an eye, handing over a fat wad of cash for his help with the paperwork and to maintain privacy. Seems she has some kind of unseemly plans waiting to unfold here. That comes more into focus when she meets Michael Solomon. Woo, geez, his entire name is a biblical reference. Not much is revealed, her only interested in if he can do this, and wants to know if he's going to look at the house. He sighs, that is what he agreed to, and they take their leave. There are already strange questions brought up, Solomon wanting to know if she's been purifying herself. She has done as instructed to a T. No alcohol for 22 weeks, no sex of any kind, and only eating from dawn to dusk for the past 27 days. Then there's the question of her faith, Protestant or Catholic? Her groaning, she's Catholic. As for what they're up to here, it's something called the Rite of Abramelin. This is a real rite, or at very least is pulled from real history, from all the way back in the 15th century. Abraham was a powerful Egyptian mage who taught a system of magic to others. This system of magic later regained popularity with more modern occultists after a new translation, in particular with the famous Aleister Crowley, who updated the system of magic from Jewish holy anointing oils as described in Exodus.
I ain't even paying attention.
Already the religious stuff is coming fast and thick here.
Hey, I ain't even paying attention. Let me get right.
Solomon warns her just how serious this rite is. He's done it 3 times prior and was only successful once, but chalks it up to inexperience as well as needing the right person to complete the ritual. He importantly asks why she wants to do it in the first place, her only saying that it's for love. I love someone and they don't love me anymore. She comes to him outside rolling a cigarette and wants to know if he's going to do it. He flatly refuses, excusing that the house isn't right. She can't understand, saying that she found everything that he asked for. It seems the real problem is her motivation, calling her a stupid posh girl. Using this procedure to force love is like getting Titian, an Italian Renaissance painter, to
That's crazy. Michael Jordan at the age 40 to win 37 games. LeBron James at the age of 36 Westbrook, Carmelo Anthony, Anthony Davis, and Dwight Howard won 33 games. That's crazy when you break it down
To
like
decorate
that.
a cake. He continues to be aggravated, feeling that he's wasted his time here, and doesn't budge when she ups the offer to 80,000 quid. It's only now that she finally spills the truth. It isn't for love, but actually that she lost her son. He was taken and says that it was her fault. She wants to speak with him and just has to hear his voice.
Hmm?
I'm gonna get my computer
Go get it.
so you can set it up for me.
Hey, go do it.
One more time. That's a much meatier motivation for Solomon, but he wants to know why she lied in the first place. She defends she thought he would think it was too much, but he lays out it's very important to tell the truth, especially as they get deeper into this. He again iterates how dangerous it is. They are dealing with real angels and real demons here. Yet she is steadfast in her drive to go forward. She wants this more than anything. Now he's convinced to follow through here after all. He lists specific things that she'll have to go through, asking once more if she's ready for this. She's confident she is, saying she's read the Kabbalah, and he chuckles at her ignorance. You think this is the tree of Sephiroth, but it's not. It's actually Gnosticism, which is a religious movement that originated pre-Christianity. It was a collection of ideas as well as religious ones. They came together in the first century among Jewish and early Christian sects. They emphasized personal spiritual knowledge above the orthodox teachings and authority of religious institutions. So unlike more modern Christianity, this emphasizes the person and their own spiritual learning above anything else. As we'll see, this is pretty much on the money for the right. They get a list together of all the supplies they'll need, including several months worth of food, as once they get started, there is no leaving the house. So far, we have some insight to Sophia's situation, but Solomon starts revealing that he has some of his own issues. Most
Maybe I wasn't paying attention, so I really don't know what's going on. Yeah, I really don't know what's going on. So maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
Effectively, he abuses alcohol. He's currently detoxing from drinking for several months, believing that it puts him in a higher state of mind. He shakes it off as no big deal, but then quickly gets weak in the knees. She rushes to his aid, and he angrily shoves her away and storms off. Alone in his room, he pulls out a hefty bottle of booze, but denies its allure and stuffs it into a drawer. Meanwhile, she too is digging through her own belongings, finding a folded photo of her and her boy. She reaches around further and pulls out what must be a little goblin toy of his. She stares over to the door and blocks it with a chair. Better safe than sorry, I guess. And who knows if she can really trust this guy. He does some final preparations at the house while she stocks up at the store. She stops when hearing a child crying nearby, then hearing a muffled, gravelly voice saying to stay still. She walks around the cars and sees someone in a hoodie leaning over a fussy child. We don't see her face, but there is a shock of white hair peeking out from under her hood. She is startled by someone grabbing her shoulder, the lady huffing, Sophia, thank God! We learn that it's her sister, who has been worried about Sophia's well-being. Sophia insists that she's better now, thinking it was not doing anything that made her ill. Now she's doing something. Victoria must be mildly aware of what she's attempting, asking if she believes in God and if what she's doing is godly. Sophia isn't frightened by involving the forces of darkness, asking what she would do if it was her kid. She defends that she would definitely not do this and offers to look after her troubled sister. Sophia is dubious at the prospect of her younger sis taking care of her and points out the main difference in their families. Victoria has 2 healthy kids and she has none. Getting emotional, she wants to know where God and his goodness is and all that. She won't be swayed and stays.
That's crazy. So her sister got 2 kids. That's what I be saying. Like, people don't be understanding. Like, getting older. Like, you want to have kids, but her kid died. So it's like, I wouldn't know what to do if my children passed away. Like, I would be so fucking heartbroken. Like, I would be like, man. But I do want more kids, though. One day.
resolute in her choice to do this despite her sister's concern, or whether it's right or wrong. It might not be immediately clear just yet, but based on this, we can sense that Sophia was perhaps once a believer in God, that is until losing her son, and as a result she turned her back on him as well as Christianity as a whole. They tend to the initial prep, including Solomon cutting a branch.
That was me. That was me when I lost my dad. Not to say I lost hope about God, but I was just like, I just lost hope in general. I was like, man, kind of over this.
Out in the woods and then tossing it into a room as she rolls up the rugs in what will be their main ritual area and sweeps up the place, getting things nice and clean, or at least a little cleaner, I suppose. Camping out with a fire as there's no heat in the house, Solomon casually tests her truth-telling once more. They chat back and forth in various foreign languages, and when it comes to German, she stumbles a bit, and he puts her on the spot. Does she truly speak the language? And she maintains that she does. Yet he gets cut on the hand when she says so, establishing the potential of repercussions going on here. He has to pay for her lie in a sense. She backtracks that she can make herself understood, but according to him, a half-truth is still a lie. He gravely states that everything has consequences here. This has to be pure, not just in intention, but in drive along the way as well. He clarifies the problem is not about her being unable to speak German. He can help her with that, but she has to be honest. He suggests to take a final walk in the morning, as again it will be months before they can step foot outside. She does so, setting out into the picturesque plains, pausing for a moment to take in the gravity of what she's doing here. She then sees something unsettling at her feet, a rotting dead dog covered in maggots. Probably not a good omen considering. They then reach the point of no return for real, as Solomon lays out a salt perimeter around the house to create a supernatural seal. He leaves one little spot, giving her a final chance to back out, but she's unwavering and he completes the circle. Things kick off in the morning in an ultra fun manner, Solomon tossing a bucket of water in Sophia's face. Martin, he treats her like a drill sergeant, shrieking to know what she's still doing in bed and orders her to get up. She breathlessly apologizes, but he doesn't want to hear it, growling for her to meet him downstairs. He then details the increasingly complicated and difficult steps to complete the rite. They use so-called magic squares, which are made up of words and numbers together to make a whole idea, the intention to change a state regarding reality. She tries to complain, reminding him who's paying his wages here, but he stays agitated, spitting for her to not argue back, and this is not about the money. He accuses her of wanting to back out. Well, too late for that anyway, but she lays out that she just really wants this to work. He puts her down further, asking if this could possibly work with her in the lead, and she has to admit she can't do this without him. But he definitely takes advantage of that unbalanced power relationship established. That is for dadgum sure. He hands over a random mushroom for her to eat, and when expressing hesitation, he berates her once more for questioning him. She dutifully chomps it down, wondering what it will do. Solomon informs her, now that she has been cleansed ritually, the next step is to be cleansed physically. Worried, she wants to know if it's going to be horrible, and he assures her it will be. Oh boy. Physically pure seems to indicate having to vomit all your guts out, seeing Sophia hurling over the toilet. She lies in bed, staring at her son's toy, and she flashes to what looks like a distorted dream out on the beach. The red-hooded lady from the parking lot is there, along with her son. Amongst the flashes is one of an older lady, now seeing her face, and she's holding the boy's hand. Now the complex rite truly begins, and he explains each step that she must go through.
That thing is tiny.
Rewatching this
Or maybe
video,
mine
it's
is just
like,
big.
20 minutes of the movie is just him explaining all the
Yeah,
details
I got the
of this
big
thing,
model.
which is quite impressive,
I could have had to got
and
the
does
smaller
make it
one, like
seem a lot
14.
more
I think the
fleshed out
14 might be like
and
this
more
size.
real than
It's
an
like-
average movie ritual.
Yeah.
In a basic sense,
Yeah,
there are
much like
multiple
it.
circles drawn on the floor, each corresponding to
Nah.
the 5 realms of reality.
Like
Each must be
wider than the
completed
pearl
one by
and
one
then
with
the-
increasing
that's
intensity.
fair.
The intention being each time she is brought
Gotta
closer
turn it
to
on
that
now.
veil between worlds,
Should've got-
as well as getting closer to evoking her guardian angel, and it will hopefully appear in the
It's all
unnamed
good.
middle circle in the room. As for the angel, with each circle complete, it will grow stronger and more powerful. Its world will become merged with other worlds, not just our own.
It's the
It could
first time trying to
potentially
know,
show up
right?
At any of the
Yeah.
stages, but most likely will be
Probably
in one of the
dead.
final ones. There's symbols with other purposes on her journey. A triangle that represents the Holy Trinity. Here she will gain focus to
They look
stop
nice.
her going mad. Another room is the opposite, it seems. The square representing the number 4.
thought it
Itself a
come already
square of
charged
2,
up.
the
It
perfect
do.
number. This room relates to her urges.
Wasn't
and
it charged when you was on it?
As well as where
And
she
this
will
my
gain
first
her
time,
steel.
like,
And
turning
also
it on
represents
now, this
decay,
For real?
death.
Yeah.
Fun. He commands her to
excited
break
to
the
do
branch,
that.
and then helps
And I'm
teach her
not
the
so
many
that
important
far.
magic squares that she will need along the way. She already displays
Yeah,
some
charge
knowledge
it.
here, and he is impressed, even giving a nugget of encouragement encouragement before calling out her sloppy writing. Well, thanks for being nice for about a second there. He then gets her to shave all the hair off his back. As you do, gotta be pure. Flipping through a journal, there's a swirly skull-looking guy on one page, and conversely, a lady with big-ass swords on the other, which must symbolize the dual sides of power they are potentially evoking. Something good or evil. He places a rock out and asks her to concentrate on its mass, its coolness and stillness. The first step in the rite is to unshackle the house from our world,
it could turn
which
into
will
a
take 2
tablet.
days, reiterating that they cannot leave the bigger circle. He tells her she must sit here and focus on the rock for 3 days with no break or even food. She's supposed to allow the rock to swallow any of her inevitable pain and discomfort. After the 3 days, she will get some food, but then she has to do the same thing in the other rooms, which is already shaping up to be a real test of will and determination. She gets right to it, Sophia chanting for all of her transgressions to be washed and to make her chaste and pure. Let her light be here now, guiding me and protecting me. As she continues, a door creaks open, accompanied by a thud upstairs, a very subtle sign that the rite could be starting to work. In her room, she finds the goblin toy knocked over, and then hears a dog barking somewhere. I mean, they are in the middle of nowhere. Solomon, too, has picked up on the dog's odd bark. They're miles away from anywhere. She wants to know when they're going to start seeing some real effects, and a blackbird smashes right into the window. With this, he declares it's already begun. It was a blackbird, as he points out. She can't tell through the window, but he is confident in what he saw. The rite is truly only beginning, as each circle will take weeks to master, but importantly, the rituals are really about her, shifting her consciousness and becoming one with the ceremony. She soon starts feeling the real impact of what they're doing, especially with them splashing water on her all the time. She collapses to the floor, convulsing. She cries that she needs sleep, and he lets her down, not yet, getting her back to her praying. The dog starts barking again, now joined by a bird tweeting. We come into the middle of a conversation regarding another part of the ritual about forgiveness, but she growls that she doesn't do forgiveness, asking him to work around it. He claims that he can, but it will make life hard, her only repeating back, she doesn't do forgiveness. So he drains some of his blood into a glass and orders her to drink it. She doesn't want to, but he reminds her this was really her choice. They need a blood sacrifice. He gets aggressive, and she chokes it down, him making sure she swallowed it all. Just as she finishes, we jump back to moments ago, telling her again to drink it down. She's confused, but does so anyway, establishing once more just how determined she is to reach her son. Even something as horrifying to her as drinking blood, and then making her relive it moments later, she still follows through no matter what. This is even further established when she returns to that picture, and she tears her boy out, and crumples up her own side. This symbolizes that not even Sophia matters to herself. Her son is the only priority. She'll put herself through anything to get to the boy. The pair discuss the metaphysical concepts behind what they're doing, as it isn't strictly owing to one religion or philosophy. It's kind of a melting pot of many different concepts. He classifies it as ontological, the branch of philosophy that studies concepts such as existence, being, becoming, and reality. Again, considering the idea of what oneself is able to do in a position at the top of the spiritual food chain, so to speak, she asks what exactly he's seen in his previous work, and he divulges he's seen everything. Gods, demons, the dead, and the damned. She inquires if any of those things scared him. They all did, he says. His intention isn't about harnessing the power of these otherworldly things, but really the power of knowledge itself, and seeing the architecture and levers of these other worlds and how they work. Many humans wonder if there is something beyond the veil of our reality, and Solomon has seen things that prove there is to him. There's power in that knowledge in and of itself. The pair start to tap through to the other worlds, Sophia hearing faint scrapes and creaks through the floor. Solomon knows this means they've been noticed by these other beings, though they don't know who they are yet. She has a hopeful thought that it could be her boy, and a thud comes right at her ear. He quickly marks a spot, and they have to reseal their circles. She returns to the floor, hopeful for another supernatural punch from what she believes is her son's spirit. Sophia opens up a little bit, recounting a recurring dream that she has, which sounds suspiciously similar to her encounter in the grocery store parking lot, combined with those strange beach visions we were seeing. She describes being on the beach by herself, and then walks past the bodies of all of her loved ones on the way to a village. She turns the corner to an old woman holding Jack, her son's hand, but she cannot see his face. Just as she turns around, she wakes up. She's of course obsessed with her boy's death, that's the entire driving factor here, and it stands to reason that she would dream often of this. But we come to understand that this dream might actually prove her ability to complete the rite. Solomon deems this dream as being reminded mind working on things, but even dreams, he says, are part of that grand architecture between worlds that he mentioned. Dreams, deja vu, and broken time all fit under the same umbrella. Us lowly humans seeing briefly beyond the world that we know and understand. For Solomon, his recurring dream is much simpler, and without too much symbolism, he owns a moped, he chuckles. That's it. They both think it's a real crack out, and we're once more seeing just a bit of camaraderie form between them. While doing laundry, she's presented with more signs of a presence. The vibrations of the machine draw her attention, spotting the goblin toy there. It falls off the side, and she rushes to retrieve it, even pushing back the appliances, but it appears to have vanished into thin air. She then lies out in the triangle, surrounded by candles, and he marks her in symbols, reminiscent of that drawing we saw. She undoes her bra so he can get her whole back, and this very light amount of sexuality appears to have a profound impact on Solomon. Afterwards, he's seen Great Escape style, absentmindedly tossing a ball against the wall, but it's obvious that he's attracted to Sophia in some way. As we then cut into the middle of another conversation, Solomon stressing the importance of what he's asking in order to complete the ritual. You're not gonna back out, right? She of course has no interest in backing down, asking if they need to do it in the other room. He tells her to gussy herself up with a fresh shirt and some makeup, her confused by what he's asking. Him shrugging, he's only a man. She re-enters all freshened up, and he's impressed by the sight. Still assuming, hopefully, this isn't part of the ritual. She's all, don't you need your books and stuff? He turns more or less abusive again, screaming, does she know how to do this? She squeaks out, sorry, and he corrects, sorry, Mr. Solomon, which she recites back on cue. Taking things into a much more dominant, submissive relationship here, he tells her to remove her clothes and pose as he puts a hand down his pants, and yep, he quickly shoots his shot at the side of her body, and sighs for her to put her clothes back on. Even Sophia knows what happened was definitely not any kind of sex magic, and he admits that there is no sex magic in this ritual. It's just that he's gotta be pure. Gross. She calls him a piece of shit, and he throws back in her face what he's been doing for her. There's a lot to unpack from this scene, because the question becomes, if this wasn't for the right, as she's been led to believe about everything up to now, then what was the purpose? The reality, too, is we don't know that much about Solomon, and the clear intention is that he was having lustful feelings towards Sophia. His bungled way of dealing with this was to confront it head on, but also not to take advantage of her in a more deliberate way. Conversely, this proves to Sophia that Solomon has his own real personal issues and problems that he's bringing to the table despite his constant assurance that he's doing what she wants. We don't even know if we can really trust this guy. He could just be a total weirdo, and the little hints that we've seen of the supernatural could be easily explained away. And now a moment from today's sponsor, ExpressVPN. If you're anything like me, there is definitely some worry about. Sure to be all you need is it an appetites you full and button, and even visit 3 months leads to some animosity with expressvpn.com/ending to learn more. The prior situation leads to some animosity between the two, Sophia tainting his soup with some of her whiz, telling him to serve himself. She does follow through with more prayers, but now is starting to waver a bit on her faith in the process. He reminds her of how things work. It usually takes until the second or third time to really get things cooking. She puts her foot down, she's not doing it again, and is ready to leave the house entirely. He pleads to not break the barrier, or will wind up stuck here forever. She's very disappointed as to her, nothing has happened, but he feels they have. And arguably he is right, at least in that regard. He promises that if they keep going, he can get her to speak to her child. She scours back, you fucking better, and continues on with the plan. This of course includes another total back shave. Jeez, he must be one hairy dude, and he prepares another sacrifice of blood. He pours down more water upon her, and lays out rows of more magic squares, mumbling in a foreign language. By continuing in the process, she is finally rewarded, finding flowers growing in the hall. She excitedly brings them to Solomon, asking if the wind could have blown them in, but he knows better, chuckling, this is it. It's just like he told her. Now she too can start to feel the presence of something bigger going on, and Solomon encourages her to keep going, as it's at the 7th chamber that things really start popping off. She returns to praying, and is given another positive sign. A single piece of something gold rains down from above. She takes it inquisitively on her finger, and more starts to rain down upon them, signifying that her guardian angel is indeed listening. They again try to wrangle in the full depth of the evolving situation, her knowing that things don't simply end with science, as we're seeing. Solomon believes that science only describes the least of things. It's religion, as well as magic, that fill in those broader, unknown, mysterious strokes. They continue things, and she looks hopefully to the ceiling, but there's no magic gold recycled confetti. She quickly loses her faith again and takes it out on him for a change, growling that it's not working. She calls him nothing more than a vain idiot, wanting to know why it isn't working as was promised. He slyly says that he doesn't know, but could be because of her. As has been established, all this really hinges on Sophia and her unwavering drive to complete the ritual. He again accuses her of not telling him everything. She weakly says it's the truth. He loses his temper once more, pinning her down to the table, and then says her real intent isn't to speak to her son, but in fact vengeance. Jack was actually murdered by a group of teen hooligans doing their own satanic ritual. She wants to know now that the truth is out, would he have proceeded from the beginning? And he tells her that he doesn't need her to be virtuous. You gotta just keep telling the truth, you know? Which she has faltered with a few times now. It then becomes how to progress the ritual forward, and Solomon longingly looks at his bottle in consideration. It appears that in his desperation, he does turn to drinking, sulking on the toilet with his baby bottle. He comes barreling in later to Sophia's room and rouses her to come do something important. She is concerned again and can tell that he's been drinking, but he rants that she has to do the ritual and be born anew. He sends her into the bathtub and then pours more water over her head. He, in order to strengthen her spirit, calls for Horus, Orpheus, Baal, and Christ, a wide encompassing range of gods outside of any one religion. He wails that he's going to dunk her 3 times, and she tries to ask him to wait, but they have to do it now to make her soul anew. He dunks her, asking to make the soul clean and worthy. Another dunk to let her touch the void, the nothing. On the last plunge underwater, he doesn't let her up and holds her down with both hands. Looking like he's gone full nutball again, she fights back against him, thrashing in the water, but ultimately drowns. At that moment, there's a sound of a girl screaming elsewhere in the house. Probably actually Sophia's death cry. Once she ceases moving, he grabs his book and begins to chant. He then drags her lifeless body out of the tub and begins to resuscitate her via CPR. She's initially unresponsive, but finally coughs back to life. Another scene with multiple layers. I mean, he literally killed her and was drunk off his ass. You don't know what he's doing, you know? But as he stressed, truth is paramount to everything. As Sophia had lied again, he had no choice but to purify her soul in the most basic sense, by a baptism and resurrection. Now that she has died and been brought back to life, technically her soul is pure again. Man, this movie is a lot. Even though Sophia is pissed, Solomon assures her that this is what he had to do to fix the right. Now her intention is pure. She doesn't believe him and viciously attacks him, slamming him into the sink. She demands for him to make something happen, punching that she needs this. He groans in pain and lifts up his shirt, revealing that he's been stabbed all the way through by a knife in their little kerfuffle. Though the wound is looking severe, Solomon is confident this means the ritual is working. His injury is merely the price that he has to pay for hurting her. There's a kind of cosmic balance as she taps deeper into these powers, and Solomon must be punished for killing Sophia and obviously causing her harm at the same time. He says it's her guardian angel responsible for this turn of events. He's pretty nonplussed about the knife in his body and sends her to fetch some bandages and whiskey to clean the wound. He tells her to just pull the knife out, and she as usual does as asked, and the thing is really stuck in there. To distract him from the pain, he asks her to go on about losing her son. He was taken from daycare one day, but they never found the body or tied it to anyone being responsible. He coldly scoffs, "You mothers and your children." Sophia acknowledges it's been 3 years and the case was closed, and Jake was tragically forgotten in the end. Solomon knows all too well about people turning their backs on God, as she clearly has, and calls her over to sew him up. She's unconfident at first, but he assuages her fears and tells Sophia what he is going to ask for if this pays off. He wants invisibility, but not how she thinks.
Good to go.
He wants to disappear and just live his life away from the rest of the world. Just some quiet before the hell of death. But urges again, this is not bonding of any kind. We are not pals. Yeah, you are, even though on the whole, the relationship is really weird here. Regardless, he promises things will start happening, and she will soon get her vengeance. Later on the floor in bed, Sophia hears a baby crying. She goes out in the hall, hearing a door handle rattling, and finds one moving on its own. She flings it open, seeing nothing. But when turning back, there's a glimpse of something else in the triangle room. She follows after it, and even though it's no longer there, there is something left behind. What looks like streaks of blood formed into another magic square symbol on the wall. This is a good point to reiterate what Solomon laid out. As they get deeper into this, the activity will become more powerful. We saw it start as that little thud or strange sounds, and now it has progressed to full-on voices and shadowy apparitions. The pair have another impactful conversation, Sophia wanting to know what will happen to her child's killer. Well, they'll die horribly and be damned for eternity. Solomon brings up that she can ask for all kinds of things besides vengeance, but she stays on her path of doing things her own way. She chuckles at them together, calling them what a pair, but she vehemently disagrees that they are similar whatsoever. There's a kind of back and forth bickering between them, because as with each of these conversations, Sophia is developing her own thoughts regarding the supernatural. She is confused of what she ultimately believes and has faith in, and now thanks to Solomon, she is being pushed beyond her limits of understanding. He doubles down, saying she's actually even worse than he is, and asks her to look where she is, and the depths of where she was willing to go for her son. He's not wrong, still a creepo though. She gets back to mastering her circles, and it's looking like his wound could prove deadly. She goes to flip on the kettle, and they suddenly lost power out of nowhere, another tick in their ever-maddening situation. After checking the breaker, she comes to Solomon looking much worse for wear over the sink, and he insists that he's fine. When informed about the power loss, he only suggests to continue ever onward. They've got candles, they've just gotta try and reach the end. The injury begins to take him over, his normally aggressive and assured demeanor replaced by confusion and uncertainty. It definitely looks like it's infected now. After all of her suffering and turmoil, now she might finally be getting what she's been after all this time. Her son's voice wafting out and calling for his mommy. It's really happening, or is it? He lures her to another room, and ever-strong Sophia knows that this is just a deception, whispering back that it isn't Jack. Also, as they get deeper into this, they bring more angels and demons to their location, and in this case, this is actually a demon impersonating her son. If she were to succumb to the illusion or trick and open the door, all would be lost. The darkness would win. Demon Jack goes for broke, pretending that mysterious dog got into the room and proceeds to attack him. And despite the implied horror, Sophia does not open the door, only apologizing to Jack through the wood. The real world brings her back, noticing Solomon sliding down the wall. She runs to his side, and he weakly tells her that she did good. That's not really her son. For us, he coos and begins to rub her hair. Over time, they continue the work, but his health declines, pushing them to keep going. Conversely to her earlier trials, he collapses weekly, and she is the one who lifts him to his feet. Now it's a more confident Sophia that keeps the ritual spirit alive and is given more spooky evidence that it's working. While transcribing the notes, the sound of leather creaking squeaks out behind her. There's a weird glow of what looks like a cigarette there, as though someone is sitting in the chair. It starts to make a faint grumbling noise, and she grabs a candle to get a better look. She gets right up on the chair. There's no one there, but there is a lit cigarette in the ashtray. Again, they're continuously luring more spirits here, and now there is yet another. This chilling encounter is more than enough to send Sophia to her only weird comfort in this, climbing into bed with Solomon. In a final sweaty death throw, he proclaims himself a servant and warrior who shouted down his enemies. But his tough facade melts away into tears over his lost sister, first time he mentioned her. Just like Sophia, he has lost somebody, and that must have been what initially led into his inquiry regarding the afterlife. He cries, "Oh God," at the memory, and in a huge shift from before, she wants to know, is he here? She now knows that at least some kind of spirituality is indeed real. He starts to speak, but goes silent, and she lovingly caresses his noggin. By the morning, he's gone, and she has to face the reality that she is truly on her own after being berated repeatedly for not knowing what she's doing. Well, that's a tough situation. Although Sophia has proven strong and resilient throughout every challenge presented, she's gonna figure this thing out. I got a good feeling. Though things look even more dire when there's more overlapping whispers, and she finds all of her meticulously written books have been scribbled out by dark forces. They really don't want her to be victorious, and she, at her weakest, stares at her own reflection, wondering what to do next. She considers if she could just simply leave the house despite Solomon's warning, and decides to make a break for it. It won't be so easy as the car doesn't start. Again, you can't really leave the barrier until the ritual is done. She finds this out the hard way, walking out at a long and winding road until finally catching sight of a house. But as we might suspect, she winds up back at her house and knows now there is no way of escaping her fate. As she closes the front door, there's already approaching footsteps and more creaking wood. She rounds the hall, seeing black handprints on the wall and what looks like puke on the ground. Amongst the barf, she procures the photo of Jack, hearing more moaning. Solomon appears at the bottom of the stairs, but one-track mind Sophia decides to clean off the photo rather than help. And in fact, she shouldn't help, as this is another trick by the evil. She then waits impatiently at the top of the stairs, hearing more footsteps. Then a pair of ashen hands reach out and pull Solomon's body away. "It's me," a voice echoes out. She stares intently at a candle in her room, and a wind whooshes in, blowing it out. In the total darkness, she grabs another and runs out into the hall. She strikes a match, revealing in the shadows a whole group of demonic figures there. She tries again, and they're gone. Well, that's good. They're gone for good, right? No. She hears the muffled screaming of what sounds like Solomon, and she retreats to her room, barricading the door. There's more disturbing noises, and Jack is back, asking her again to open up. He gets down to the core of what happened. happened? You were supposed to pick me up at 3:30. Why weren't you there, Mommy? She genuinely and tearfully apologizes, telling him just how much she loves him. He innocently wants to know if she's asking him to forgive her, but she says no, it's not about that, it's about his killers. The voice makes it clear they're not actually her son. He's just a demon occupying her son's voice to terrify her. In the morning, Sophia is given another positive sign, finding more flowers on the floor. A clear sign the rite is still working. She looks over seeing the goblin toy, but then there's more supernatural hubbub. Out of the darkness, a white-haired woman holding Jack's hand as from her dream steps out with a black ash raining around her. She's lured once more with getting her kid back from the darkness it appears. Sophia spins around and another guy knocks her out. In a dark room, she's splayed out, the cavalcade of demons surrounding all around her. Right next to her is the dog growling as usual, and now get that she must be at the deepest of that state between life and death, and the annoying ever-barking dog is actually the rotting one that we saw earlier. Everything that has died in the area has been contained by their spell, and still lingers here now. Also, their ritual has drawn even more unruly demons. She comes to again, and the demons start grabbing onto her one by one, as though attempting to establish a connection. Maybe they're trying to get to our world. Another approaches with some massive bolt cutters that he uses to sever one of her fingers. She freaks out and manages to escape their grasp, yet they keep reaching out for her as she tries to make it upstairs, seeing only a brick wall at the top. They overpower her as she says sorry again, and it looks like the darkness will consume her for good, until a clearly holy white light overpowers the room. She walks right into it and comes to another glowing door, leading to the circle's room. She's completely overwhelmed at the sight of something, and we can see why, as there's a giant angel lady crouched in the room, in the middle circle, just like Solomon said, and there's a rainfall of the gold stuff that she saw earlier, in contrast to the older demon ladies as she reigned. Good and bad, you know, we had that established, and it looks like it really worked. Again, more circles make the angel more powerful. I mean, look at that thing. It speaks to her in a bassy tone that shakes the entire house, but we don't hear the actual word said. It's time to have her favor granted, and she takes a moment before speaking. Rather than vengeance, she asks for forgiveness. Remember how she kept saying earlier forgiveness was not her thing? Well, this whole experience has changed that. I mean, you are seeing a literal giant angel that might change some of your ideas of spirituality. We flash between the room and Sophia in a river along with a bundle, which must represent Jack's body. She officially lets go of him for good, pushing out his body, and it drifts away until it sinks under the surface. This is the true heart of Sophia's journey. She must learn to grieve and let go of her son for good. The rite now officially completed, she is able to leave without incident. While out on the road, she is overcome with emotion. It's clear this entire experience and really delving into the darkest parts of her soul has changed her fundamentally as a person. There's kind of two layers at play to her story. Going through the trials of the ritual and listening to everything crazy Solomon said, which as we see did turn out to be true, the point was that it was only by completely dedicating herself mentally and physically to enduring the rite that she was able to make it succeed. This also helped her to really dive into the idea of spirituality and make her own conclusions about it. The concept is, as was mentioned earlier, prioritizing oneself at the top of everything, and then what we can learn and grow from by embracing this concept. Then the rite also represents Sophia's own emotional and guilt-based block-up. She hasn't properly mourned her son's death, and that's what led her to all this. It's through the rite that she is forced to confront all of these things head on. And after that moment of getting to tell Jack sorry, even if it was a demon impersonating him, now she was finally able to properly grieve and let him go, and has dealt with her grief once and for all. With that, we've reached the conclusion of this ending explained for A Dark Song. But don't forget, before we go, you can send me requests for any movies or TV shows you'd like to see me explain by sending them my way on any of my social media accounts at Foundflix. What did you guys think of A Dark Song and its ending? Do you have a different interpretation?
Hey Google, party lights on.
When I found out that Google was doing career certificates and they had one in data analytics, I thought it seems like an easy.
Hold on, y'all. Alright, y'all, I'm back. My bad.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Found Flicks. On this Indie Explained, we're looking at the brand new 7th entry in the Paranormal Activity franchise, Paranormal Activity Next of Kin. This time we follow a new ghoul, not Toby, as young Margot travels to a secluded Amish community with a documentary film crew in tow, seeking answers about her mother and extended family. I was definitely surprised by this next entry in the franchise. I know it was in the works for many years, but it still just seemed to kind of come out of nowhere. Oh, there you go, a new Paranormal Activity movie. Hope you have Paramount Plus! When it comes to the big question at hand, how does this tie into the convoluted previous installments? It really doesn't. And I assume the idea is to draw in a whole new audience unfamiliar with the original films, but then I'm like, why even call it Paranormal Activity in the first place? Marketing, I guess. It's funny because despite the last one, Ghost Dimension, not being all that great, I really liked where it left our story, with our favorite ghost Toby finally getting a physical body. There's a lot more to mine from that in a new chapter to push the franchise forward into a different kind of direction. But alas, Next of Kin switches up everything from the story and style, and follows another different, yet ultimately quite similar entity that terrorizes our new crew. So at least in the sense of not tying back to that grander story, I can see why this is a disappointment to longtime fans. It's amusing as they're clearly so desperate to start anew, but then still enlisted longtime series writer Christopher Landon to pen the script, and this winds up making things feel a lot more familiar than you might expect. I saw this got destroyed by critics and fans alike, but for me, I'm kind of like, it's not that bad. The first 2/3 do have your basic found footage horror setup, and yeah, I agree, it's not a winner, but there is a formula here. Next of Kin actually feels like a kind of fast forward through all the standard beats of a Paranormal Activity movie, but to me, it's in the end that it truly shines. After sitting through the formulaic setup, the last 20 minutes or so was a welcome surprise, and it's probably one of the most batshit endings of the franchise. That for me was a win enough. And it also does get a bit confusing about what is really going on, and that is why I'm here, folks. So let's take a trip to the terrifying Amish country in Paranormal Activity Next of Kin, breaking down the story, what the Amish group is really all about, including their master Asmodeus, and explaining the ending that sets the stage for a much bigger spreading of evil. Unlike before, where we had some kind of camera around the house setup, this time we're presented with a documentary style, slightly different. Margot doesn't know anything about her family, and thanks to a random connection on 23andMe, she's able to meet her first biological relative, Samuel. He belongs to an Amish commune, and could be the one to give her the answers that she's seeking. Hence the point of the documentary. She admits it's maybe a bit egotistical making a documentary about herself, but her buddy and filmmaking aficionado Chris urged her to do it.
You got a black nigga in
The
this
story
now?
is just too good. Well, you say so, bud. Sam is a bit anxious being on
No, we ain't got a black nigga in this jump now. Wait a minute.
camera, as they aren't really supposed to do that, and reveals that he left the community 7 months ago. They talk more about it with other friends, and Margot
Asian
feels
people in
strangely
there?
compelled to find her real parents, especially because they gave her up. There's always been something missing to her because of this. She even has the surveillance footage from when she was dropped off at the hospital, and still has hundreds of questions regarding just why she would do this, and also, strangely, she looks like she's scared in the footage, but she has been unable to draw any real conclusions as of yet. They then arrive in Buffalo, New York, seeing that Chris has brought a shitload of camera equipment. Man, this kid does not mess around. Where to get the thousands of dollars all that stuff would cost. Either way, it'll definitely come in handy. They meet
Probably-
up with their eccentric
He
sound
probably rented it to be too technical, to be honest with you.
guy Dale, who reveals right off the bat that he got COVID 5 times, but it's all good, he's still alive. Yeah, great for you, man. Pretty bad immunity system there. While he discusses the virtues of zip-off pants, they pass by their first sign of where they're headed. A horse and buggy going by. What in the hell is that thing? It's not a car, it's a horse pulling a buggy. By the time they make it to the community, there's no cell service naturally, and initially seeing the place, Margot deems it to be cute. Some residents come out thanks to the hubbub, including the group's leader Jacob. Sam tries to convince them to let Margot come in, but is shut down. Afterwards, Dale is confused, asking why they didn't call first, but it's pointed out that they couldn't do that, dingus. The Amish don't have phones. All right. They hear strange noises emanating from the bathroom, and find the window open which they left closed. A random kid, Eli, pops up, gasping, "What are you doing here?" "Yeah, how did you get here exactly, kid?" When they bring him back, suddenly Jacob has changed his tune and welcomes them in, apparently happy that they brought Sam back to his home. Margot is overwhelmed being here, wondering if she'll recognize any of her relatives, but we quickly see that the place harbors some secrets. At 2 in the morning, a group venture off mysteriously into the woods, and that's just the beginning. Things here aren't maybe quite as antiquated as they might think. Margot asking a young girl if she made her dress, and she corrects her she got it at Walmart, and asks if they're on TikTok. Oh no, the poison is spread here too! Sam offers to show them the rest of the grounds, and warns them to avoid the woods. There's bears out there. Chris brings up the people they saw, and he tells them, oh yeah, it was probably a hunting party. We learn they've been in the area for a lengthy period of 200 years, and then Margot broaches the subject of her mom. Turns out her room is literally right above the one that they're staying in, but nowadays is just used for storage, he says. After seeing a bunch of cows and piggies, they venture to the upper loft area. Margot stops to snap a picture and nearly plummets through a hole and right into a pokey thrasher down below. Phew, that was close. Watch your step around here, I guess. She chats with other girls about her mom, and word is that she hooked up with someone outside of the community, which I would imagine didn't go over well with them. They have a grand old time at dinner, and Jacob and Margot both give kind words about the other, her beaming this is a special moment. Dale claps, but no one else does, stammering, whoops, I thought that was a clap moment. I thought it was too. Some kids come out and sing in German, everyone pounding on the table to the beat and really getting into it. Well, guess that's all you got around here entertainment-wise, but she's loving it here. I mean, can you remember the last time you didn't look at your phone during dinner? Everyone is so present. Their Jenny later fails, and Chris sets out into the snow to fix it. He gets it going, and is startled by a kid appearing there, mumbling to himself. Jacob brushes it off as him just being a sleepwalker, and good thing that he was out here, the kid might have frozen to death otherwise. In the morning, Margot isn't feeling well, Dale blaming it on the clear air. She then brings up hearing noises from the room up above, as though someone was walking, but no one else heard anything. The others are still cagey when her mom's name, Sarah, is mentioned, which weirdly one kid has named her doll after. She brings up the connection, and the girl tells her that Sarah is still here, but doesn't like her, and stomps off before elaborating further. More thumping upstairs wakes Margot up, and she decides this time to get a closer look. She sees the door is wide open, its big old lock hanging free. She shakily ascends the stairs and finds a bed there, the creaking continuing. She digs through the dresser and finds an old tin filled with letters from Sarah with some mention about a cult. Uh-oh. A drawer launches itself out, exposing a hidden door behind it. She slides it away and reveals a tiny door. Uh-oh, you know in horror movies those are never a good sign. I even had one in Paranormal Activity 3. She discovers a little room back there and a strange, almost water-stained looking drawing of a two-headed monster of some kind. Jacob comes in and she quickly hides under the bed. There's more thumping, and he gasps, muttering in German before leaving in a hurry. Well, I guess he didn't like whatever he saw. The creaks continue, and Margot pans around the room seeing nothing, until a weight plops down on the bed right above her. She's able to sneak away, hurrying back downstairs, but finds a door locked. She goes to the window and briefly sees a figure in the reflection, but when spinning around, she's alone. And, well, now there's obviously some kind of weird creature thing going on around here, showing the boys the footage the next day. Chris is dubious that it's a person. It must be some kind of lens distortion or something, right? Yeah, that makes faces out of thin air. Dale, on the other hand, bemoans that he hates creepy old farms. They're always haunted. Margot is more than convinced, with the clues piling up, that something is going on with her mom. So they set up an interview with Jacob to finally hopefully get some concrete answers. He details that she was not a fan of their community's way of life and was more of a free spirit. This turned dark as she got older, and after several failed attempts to take her own life, wound up pregnant by a boy in town. They suspect that she did it to spite their ways of life, and it worked, as she was shunned by the group, forced to work, sleep, and eat alone. He believes this might have driven her away completely in the end. And because they don't allow children out of wedlock, Sarah was forced to give the child away. Margot calls this horrible, but he argues that he loved his daughter Sarah. But she was selfish. That was her sickness, he proclaims. Chris agrees that what they did was pretty shitty, but she ultimately feels that it was for the best, so she didn't have to grow up in this dump. Remembering back to what the little girl said, Margot truly believes that her mom is still here. A kind of strange feeling is telling her this that she cannot deny. More secrets are soon unearthed when Chris takes his drone out for a spin to get some sweet aerial shots, and when flying over the woods nearby, they give away to an ominous-looking church. Realizing that must have been where they were going that first night, they hike to the building with a sign out front reading, "So far, no further." According to Google Translate at least, Dale easily picks the lock, and they're just about to step inside until Jacob shows up, deriding them for entering a place of worship with cameras and shit, and orders them back to the house for lunch. Oh, you know the good stuff's gotta be in there. It looks more and more that some kind of misfortune has befallen the community. Chris asks an older lady to be on camera, and she's just staring off into space. While peeling potatoes, she's so checked out that she's been flaying her hand for quite some time, just slicing the skin right off. That is a sharp peeler for sure. This dinner is a little more tense than last time. Everyone's sitting in silence, clanging away. This strangeness also spreads to the animals. Margot awoken to the sounds of shrieking from the barn. They sneak to the upper level to look, spotting everyone gathered around a goat. One cuts at it with a knife, and they pull out a two-headed baby. They bash the abomination with a shovel.
Wait, he did what?
And they pull out to look, spotting everyone gathered around a goat. One cuts at it with a knife, and they pull out a two-headed baby. They bash the abomination with a shovel, causing Margot to nearly lose her shit and get them caught. They recognize that whatever this is spreading. It's the children first, then the old. We have to do it now. Whatever it is involves their secret church. As they follow the group, they're wondering why they're bringing the baby's body there. Must be some kind of sacrifice, right? They try to talk about all this with Sam, and he's upset at them for sneaking around where they weren't supposed to. They're his guests, after all. Even though he does seem more on their side than the others, the gang knows better at this point. And when Sam is left behind to babysit him, they use Dale as a distraction to get back to the church and see what's inside. They're immediately confused, as there are no pews, but a series of paintings on the ground really start filling us in on their history. There's mention of a demon Asmodeus, and it's to him that they are giving these sacrifices, to stave off the bad luck of the village. But it's not working anymore for some reason from what we've seen. Noticing a wonky board, Chris thinks something is underneath the pulpit. They're able to easily slide it away, revealing a trapdoor and a long tunnel in the floor. Must be where they tossed the goat corpse. Of course she has to see what's down there, and luckily they have a pretty sophisticated jacket and pulley system to get down there with ease. She's compelled to keep going even after becoming overwhelmed by a foul smell. There's also some crosses jammed in the rocks on the way down, as she keeps rappelling closer into the bottom. She becomes stuck for a moment, seeing a room down there, along with hearing faint groaning and chains rattling. She's had enough, shouting to be pulled up, noticing bones and other bits of gore around. Replaying the footage and hearing the odd sound, she's convinced something is down there. Understanding they're throwing the goats and whatnot to feed whatever it is, with potential danger looming ever closer, they have a wrench thrown in the works when they find out that their van has suddenly stopped working, meaning they're not going to be getting out of here anytime soon. Things quickly take an even more sinister turn when Margot searches Jacob's room, and in a locked closet discovers a computer with the internet and a camera and everything hidden in there. Through emails, she learns that she was actually set up from the very beginning, seeing a conversation between Sam and Jacob about her coming. She explains to Chris that Sam actually left to find her. He never actually left the community. He's been working for them the whole time. They discuss further in private that the emails went back over a year before Sam reached out. They also worryingly have tons of personal info on her, like her class schedule and address, again clarifying that they have actually been seeking her out from the beginning for some specific nefarious purpose. She's more than ready to get out of Dodge, but with no car, no phone, and the closest town 30 miles away, that is gonna prove difficult. Chris promises that they'll head into town tomorrow to get a battery for the van, but they'll have to stick around until then. Yet later that night, the activity is taken to frightening new heights, as Margot is awoken by more odd noises, spotting the door opening on its own. She tries many times to rouse the boys, but they are completely out, not even remotely responsive, and perhaps are physically drugged. She spies several folks out the window, staring back up at her. She gets up and closes the door. It busts itself back open, and she's knocked to the ground. She's then lifted into the air, hearing more growling that goes quiet. then also distinctly hearing a person faintly whispering. Then a bit later, a black ghostly figure emerges in the doorframe for a moment before walking away. That's kind of weird. The boys awake in the morning to Margot staring out the window in a daze, drawing a circle in the condensation. Alarmingly, there's a massive blood stain on the bed and ceiling, even making out footprints up there, and it appears that the trail of blood is emanating from her. A local doc gives her the once-over and gives the unconvincing explanation that she's just exhausted and having an especially strong menstrual cycle. Yeah, sure, she just like blasted onto the ceiling because of her menstrual cycle. That makes total sense. The guys aren't so sure he's legit either, but he promises that if she gets worse, they'll take her right to the hospital. With nothing else to do, they set out on the very long road to town to get the van fixed. Luckily, not too far out on the road, they stumble across a mail truck, and the friendly postal worker is happy to give them a ride. He also has some disturbing information regarding the supposed Amish community they've been staying at. They, in fact, aren't Amish at all, and are kind of hiding in plain sight amongst other Amish people, but he doesn't know much more. Once they make it to the general store, as well as the internet, Chris recalls the name Asmodeus from the church, and it's just a Google search away to uncover the Balin family's secret identity. Exposition dump time! Asmodeus is a demonic prince of lust, suffering, and wrath, an overlord of the 9 levels of hell, and a prince amongst demons. Pretty pedigree, dude. Then there is the tale of a small Norwegian village many years ago, whose fate sounds strikingly similar to that of the farm. They were taken over by a pestilence, causing their crops and livestock to die out. Soon after, neighbor turned against neighbor in horrific acts of violence, and the whole tragic outcome was blamed on the work of Asmodeus. The downtrodden villagers turned to the so-called White Witch for help. She was able to trap the demon inside of a chosen woman of God, which was able to ensnare the powerful entity. So you basically put the demon in a lady to keep it from fucking your shit up with your cord and stuff. This curse of sorts traveled down the bloodline, daughter to daughter, and was able to keep Asmodeus from being unleashed upon the world. After all that, it's pretty obvious why the group wanted Margot so desperately. She's the next in the bloodline after her mother to contain the demon. When they return to the farm, we see their master plan is already in motion. Dale goes off to tend with the van, while Chris goes inside for Margot and their belongings. Yet it's strangely empty in there. All their stuff is just gone and there's no sign of Margot. He comes across Sam in the hallway murmuring to himself, and then he pipes up that women are the most powerful creatures on Earth. This is why it's his sister's duty to hold this burden. They are the only ones strong enough to hold him back. He ominously states it's time, and urges him to not leave the house until the bell stops chiming. Chris is unfazed, setting out into the blustery night, and makes his way to the church. Jacob is waiting there with a gun, and tries to help him understand the necessity of their plan. If they don't transfer the demon into Margot, it will be set loose and is able to jump from person to person and will kill us all. The gun goes off and Chris tackles him. Jacob ironically chokes him with a nearby Bible, but Chris clocks him good, sending him tumbling down the hole. There is nowhere else to go but down, hearing Margot's pain screeches echoing below. And then he hears that same faint hissing and groaning. He finds an older lady with candles all around her, praying over Margot. He just straight up throws the woman off of her, and in the process knocks out the quite important salt barrier. The lady attempts to put it back in place, but once it's broken, you're out of luck, pal. This is consistently used to contain spirits or demons, but when the line is broken, you're usually screwed. The lady complains that he doesn't know what he's doing, and Margot shoots awake, then spotting a withered creature sitting on what looks like a bone throne. Well, it looks like Mommy is still around after all. Based on what we know about Asmodeus, it seems like Sarah's vessel was able to keep the demon at bay for some time, but ultimately they physically start changing into the demon. Hence why things have been getting bad in the village. Hence the necessity again for Margot to step in as the new vessel, so they can stop the pestilence from spreading and begin their cycle anew. Sarah takes out the lady quite horrifically, and the pair take off, hearing her roaring behind them. Unfortunately, there is no way back up. That is until our ever-stalwart Dale arrives, confused about what's going on. Chris helps Margot go up first, still freaking over whatever that thing was. As she slowly goes up, we hear metal clinking, and the creature is free. He flings on the vest, and Sarah crawls after him, Chris just barely getting out of there in the nick of time. They hear the pulley going again, knowing the creature is on its way out of the hole after them. They struggle to see out in the blizzard, catching a glimpse of the creature as it gets Dale, including a nice slow-mo shot where his face is ripped right off. Woo-wee. That's why you pay extra for those cameras, to get that 120 frame slow-mo. It's beautiful. They hoof it to the barn with the creature on their trail. Bang
Ain't gonna kill a black nigga though.
And roaring. They sneak upstairs as the creature makes it inside and shut off the camera light for a moment. Sarah appears and smacks Chris good, causing him to drop the camera. Margot grabs a hook and gets her mom's attention. "Look at me," she cries, asking if she remembers her. She starts getting closer, assuring her, "It's me, your daughter. I'm here now, Mom. It was just a ruse," and she jams the hook in Sarah's neck. She's definitely not happy about it and tries to drag her down a hole. Margot is able to kick her off, and Sarah plummets onto the thrasher that she almost fell onto a few days earlier. Again, watch out for holes around this place. They get to their feet and make it to the van. But yeah, guess what? No keys. They're on Dale's destroyed corpse. Once they fetch them, the church bell starts ringing once more and starts getting more rapid, tolling extremely quickly. This seems to indicate that the feared Asmodeus-fueled madness is at hand. The entire place engulfed in flame. Another person pops up yowling with his eyes gouged out, and another dude is just casually strolling by completely on fire. Well, go jump in the snow or something. Back to the van. It predictably won't turn over despite Chris's chanting of, "Come on, baby." Crazed citizens attack, smashing the windows, and the engine finally turns over. They crash out of the barn and plow right into a dude firing at them. Driving off into the night, Margot lets out a blood-curdling scream, which is probably a reference to the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Yes, they do escape, but the evil is far from done for, as we see. Sometime later, a cop comes across the grisly aftermath. The action is long over now, with bodies littering the snow. He's lured to the barn, hearing what sounds like a baby crying, and comes to Samuel, seeing he's the one making the weird noises, and now understanding that he's the demon's newest vessel. As Jacob laid out, if they don't complete the ritual, then Asmodeus can jump from body to body at will. So kind of thanks to Chris and Margot, the evil has been set free upon the world. Sam makes the officer turn the gun on himself as another cop shows up, and he does the exact same thing to him. He jacks his car and sets out on the snowy road. Knowing the evil is set loose, there's no containing this thing. So things are pretty open-ended if the filmmakers choose to do a follow-up. Is Sam gonna hunt down Margot since he knows that she's the only one that can stop him? Or conversely, is she going to hunt him down to put an end to the evil for good? Either way, it looks like the world at large is probably pretty effed, which really, again, is thanks to Margot and Chris. If you had just done the ritual, none of this would have happened. Was it worth saving one lady and dooming countless others? I'm not so sure. One other thing I was kind of confused about after watching this is it seems like there's two things going on here. What's technically a spirit, as well as Sarah chained up in the hole, terrorizing Margot. From what we see, it appears that the spirit is actually Asmodeus outside of his vessel and is trying to prevent the transferring ritual from occurring. That's why it attacked her and the blood and all that. He knew if he could destroy the vessel, he could finally be free. But also, thanks to the kids, it happened anyway. So, you know, win-win. Well, that brings us to the conclusion of this explained video on paranormal.
Well, the black dude didn't die. So, it was a win right there.
Alright, and I don't know, man. Maybe if this video get like 100K, I guess it was like Batman or like Black Panther or something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
bro, what are you doing?
what?
Why are you putting the off-white song? I'm like,
It's crazy. It's crazy.
That's 5K in your hand right there. You can use to do parkour, bro.
That's, I'm tripping, man. But I need like 8 my side.
8?
It's like 8, bro. But yeah, I'm tripping the whole time. I'm tripping. Which one should I go with, though? Which one should I go with? parkour material right now, man. I said, man.
Okay. This nigga going crazy.
This match right here.
Bro, what are you doing?
Huh?
What are you doing?
You know what I'm saying? Like this knife right here, like I can really see, like I can really, like this mine right here, like I can really see the whole. I see a little walking his dog over there. I see it all, like I can really see like everything though, like now this is tough though. I ain't gonna count, like this is tough, and it's mine too, like it's my house. Like can't nobody kick me out of nothing like this. This house is up out here though. I don't want this belt more times than I can remember, man. It's really my belt. It should say Big D Block. That's what it should say on there. It should say Big D Block, but you know what I'm saying? It's the AMP belt, so I ain't gonna try to take that from that right there. You ever notice that like parkour, they always do like some that unnecessary roll, like they always do like like bro, that was not even necessary, bro. Like you could just land it, bro. You could just land it, bro. You know you can do parkour, bro. You know what I'm saying? It ain't that deep, bro. Hey, but look though, a lot of like, you know how people be like, I'm pushing 30?
Yeah.
Like, they don't even know where it came from. Like, it started with like me and Davis when AMP first started. Like, we used to like joke with each other, and he used to be like, dude, he used to be like, you pushing 30. And I used to be like, bro, you ugly as you fat as like you not a strap. This is what I used to be. This is what I used to say to him. So like now y'all dragging it. It ain't even funny no more. Like y'all kill jokes, bro.
You straight?
Yeah. Y'all use nice cars, man. Oh, these real nice cars, man.
Oh.
What? I'm that nigga, boy. I'm him, boy. Like I really been doing this shit. Like I've been doing this. Like I remember when I first taught myself how to do a backflip. I was like 4, 5, 6, like 4, 5, 6. Seeing all the older niggas in the hood do it, I was like, bro, I gotta learn how to do that. So I taught myself. I landed on my head a few times, but nigga, look at me now. Like I can do this shit about sleep, like type shit. And one thing I always wanted, like I be just like imagining it, where like I wake up in the morning, you know what I'm saying? I wake up, get a little yawn in, come down, cause I smell something brewing, and you know what I'm saying? I come in and like my wife, you know what I'm saying? She right here cooking with a view like this though. Like imagine you waking up.
Yeah, that's a crazy ass view.
Your wife cooking with
That's a crazy view.
t-shirt on.
Wait, she cooking in the sink?
No.
Bro, that's a crazy ass view. Like, bro, I didn't even know, like, I think they in Atlanta. I didn't even know Atlanta had, like, high areas like that.
Nigga, now you right there. No, the stove right here, but I'm saying, I'm just from view-wise, like, she was over there washing dishes, obviously, since she on my dick, like, she right here cooking, and she got a big t-shirt on, and whatever else, use your imagination, but, you know what I'm saying, eggs, bacon, little pancake, waffle, orange, whatever you want, whatever your type of breakfast is. I'm just saying, though, you get what I'm saying, though?
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, nigga, you on my dick. Hey, man, like, it's all about, like, enjoying, like the small things in life, like, you know what I'm saying, open up your door, see a whole bunch of beautiful cars that you and your friends, you know what I'm saying, work real hard for to acquire. You know what I'm saying? Like, this how I'm gonna be like, you know what I'm saying, when I'm older, like my kids going to school. Like, all right, y'all have a good day.
Said, how could I be homophobic? I bet you. It's a catchy song, man.
What song is it?
I actually don't even know the name. Chris put me on. Lyrical Lemonade. Cole Bennett just dropped that.
I think I can get on Cole Bennett if I really want.
No cap. Like maybe you work real hard, got 100 million views on a song, on some shit, and then maybe one day he hit you up, and then you can do like a fire ass music video with him. It'd be fire. Like the music.
I put it on my bucket list to do. Be on the Cole Bennett song. Cole Bennett, hit me up, bro.
I think we should explore a few solutions.
Grammarly's suggestions catch when your tone might undermine your message, and it often.
Bro, what are you doing?
What the fuck? Hold on, nigga. Chill.
My fault, man. Go ahead.
Chill, boy.
You know the thing is that backflips, they don't just. The thing is that you can't see that you're going backflips.
Okay.
That's that move,
That's
right?
your favorite move.
Hey, of all time, like, hey, like, how many niggas you don't see me killed with that?
At least 5, man.
Bruh.
At least 5.
And it's muscle memory, so that shit really automatic.
In fact, 2 of them was him.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, like, I can't shoot regularly, but if I do this right here, automatic.
Yes.
This shit can, bro. So look, what do you think about me running up, right? Running up that, boom, scaling it, and then grabbing on. So you think I can do that?
I think so.
I think so. What's that?
Yeah. I think it's doable.
Let me see. Nah, niggas be wanting to do shit. Hey, niggas be wanting to do shit like, I wasn't gonna be able to grab it because it's like a water gutter, like it might break. But like, and now like, have you seen like on like line where like they do like boom, and then they'll do like one hand, two hand, and have you seen that?
Nah, what is
I
that?
always wanted to see if I can do it, but let me see. Boom. Oh,
Okay. One hand,
That's
two.
first try. That's first try. Like, that's tough.
So you just be capturing
What?
that look like real professional, like you done did that before.
Nigga, that was first try to be trying shit. Like, nigga, it ain't my fault that when I try shit, it be like success. Like, niggas just be
One arm, then.
hating for real. You know what I'm saying? When life give you lemons, bro, you make the best lemonade that you can possibly.
Like, look at that view though, bro. Like, I didn't even know Atlanta had a view like this, yo. Like, that shit is like. That's crazy.
Hey, nigga, like you make Chick-fil-A lemonade, nigga, like.
What if you ain't got no sugar?
Nigga, if you ain't got no sugar, nigga, then drink water, nigga. What the fuck is you talking about?
This nigga here, but that view is crazy, bro. I don't need this nigga keep stepping on the roof though. Like, bro, this just like scurry. Nah, that view is crazy, bro. What is this nigga doing, Brody? What is this nigga doing, Brody? Wrong move, bro.
Shit.
you doing?
What'd you say?
Sweating and shit, G.
I'm on top of this motherfucker right now. I'm doing a little parkour. Right in the motherfucking middle of it. Hold on.
You doing the thing?
Hell yeah. I just got done with this shit. What the hell you on tomorrow?
Shit, man. I'm in the house. You got there, come get me.
I'll be back there in the morning. I'll hit you up.
Alright,
bet. Look at this guy. I see these motherfuckers recording like some hoes. The house looks so good at nighttime when it's lit up. Why was you so scared? You a hoe. Like,
You look like Drake. Yeah, I told AJ, I said, well, use this as evidence, bro. I don't know what's going on, bro.
you a hoe, man. hey, this is.
Can you get my drone, please?
Oh, want me to go get it?
Yes.
I bet I go get it. Hey, I'm on a side mission right now, gang.
I'm in yellow on the side, but that's a blue shoe. Taji Sahi.
Shit.
Cause I'm saying bullshitting. Stop playing on that motherfucking roof.
Shit. Oh, fuck. Fuck. Yep. Let me take my motherfucking ass on. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna care. I ain't even gonna care. Boy, almost fell right there, boy.
Get off that motherfucking roof.
That way. Had to catch myself. I can't go out like that right there. Can't go out like that right there. Boy, almost ended it right there. Boy, almost fell and goddamn. Business. Can't go out like that right there though. I go out like a hoe. I fall off this. Yeah, man, people always have to come and pick me up, man, off the pavement. Type shit. This parkour video right here, boy, it might be my last one. I swear to God, like, boy, I almost fell from the top, boy. I almost fell off the top of that motherfucker. And look, I ain't gonna lie. I was scared.
I bet you was.
I'm all cut up, I'm bruised up, I'm sore. I've been rolling, you know what I'm saying? I'm rolling. Nah, no cap though, man. I appreciate you. I do it all for y'all, man. Like, cause I really love y'all, boy. And I know y'all love me too. You know what I'm saying? Like, I ain't tripping though, man. Hey, look. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, and comment Big D Vlog, man. Yes, sir. And I'm out, man.
Nigga drew that jump for him?